Thanks for tuning in to another installment of Advanced TV Herstory, a podcast that studies, analyzes, and celebrates women in television. Among thousands of comedies, variety shows, and dramas that have aired, the presence of strong women, both in front of and behind the camera, hold valuable lessons. In some cases, good shows or characters of today can be traced to an influence that aired 20, 30, even 40 years ago. With an eye to aligning the leadership lesson, time capsule observation, or fascinating backstory of a show's success or failure, my goal of Advanced TV Herstory is to connect the treasures of the past to the great potential of today's TV and online platforms. Theme songs that prompt a smile, characters that make you want to stand a little taller, shows that defy social norms or expectations of how women should behave, it's all here in Advanced TV Herstory. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams. We can run, but we just can't hide from the 80s. It's not hard to find sitcoms from the 60s, 70s, and 80s on TV, but it is nearly impossible to find a drama unless maybe you get Hill Street Blues as part of your cable package. In the late 70s and well into the 80s, the legacy broadcast networks still ruled, even though cable was emerging. A majority of the baby boom was now well into adulthood. But with a sputtering economy, an energy crisis, and ongoing tensions in the Middle East, we were a nation at peace. Ronald Reagan had taken the helm as president from Jimmy Carter. Each year set new records of women graduating from college, and in spite of the economy, there were real aspirations that this would be a period of prosperity. America was a world leader to be feared. We invented, manufactured, marketed, and consumed better than any nation in the world. Lee Iacocca, the CEO of Chrysler, gives us his hard sell on his latest fleet. During those dark days of the American auto industry, Chrysler had declared bankruptcy. This 1982 ad precedes the advent of the vehicle that would save Chrysler and change mothers' lives forever.
Chrysler LeBaron series. Nobody has anything like them. Not Ford, not GM, not the imports. I challenge you to compare their quality and technology to anything that comes out of Germany or Japan. There's this sporty coupe that's priced so that you won't go into sticker shock. And a four-door sedan that offers impressive gas mileage and six-passenger room. This handsome town and country, this dazzling convertible that puts a little fun back into driving. No cars are perfect, but these come pretty close. Drive them. See for yourself how quiet and smooth they are. If you don't agree they're the best Chryslers ever made, the very best America has to offer at a sensible price, then I'm in the wrong business. Oh, one more thing. If you can find a better car, buy it.
Thank you, Chrysler, for giving us the thoughtful, durable minivan and changing our lives. But for these reasons and the fact that I was a teenager in this era, the TV shows Dallas and Falcon Crest are eerie time capsules. While they were never intended to be documentaries of society life, this might have been an indicator of how Americans thought the tremendously wealthy lived, their houses, their cars, their car phones, and butlers. It should come as no coincidence that producers for both Dallas and Falcon Crest, launching adult-themed soap opera dramas, both sought out accomplished actresses to anchor their shows. Bel Geddes and Jane Wyman, respectively, were movie stars. They were blue-chip stock for viewers over 40. So this installment of Advanced TV Herstory takes a look at these two women, the two shows, and the two characters of Miss Ellie and Angela Channing. Show business, TV in particular, is an industry that skews young, but the voices and messaging that accompanied these two actresses' performance struck notes that could only have been delivered from women who were 60 and 67 respectively when their shows began. So first you'll learn a bit about Bel Geddes and Jane Wyman. I'll give you a rundown of the shows. They aren't readily available online. Most seasons of Dallas are available on DVD, but only the first two seasons of Falcon Crest were ever released. Then we'll get a good understanding of the two characters. These women were strong enough that in any episode they could change minds with a single statement. However, they were strong in very different ways, which may actually well reflect the evolving expectations of women in the workplace and in the family setting. So put on your Pendleton cashmere turtleneck or your St. John's suit and return to a time when the sky was the limit. This clip tells you a bit about Barbara Bel Geddes' acting chops.
Ray, get me the shotgun out of the hall closet.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand perfectly. And what about you, Cliff? How long are you going to perpetuate this stupid Barnes-Ewing feud? Until we're all dead and gone? Is it worth it to you?
Don't expect me to apologize because JR got in over his head.
I don't expect anything from you, Cliff. And I don't apologize for what my son did. It's a family matter. We may be wrong and we may be right, but we're Ewings. We stick together. And that's what makes us unbeatable.
By the time the producers of Dallas called her to star in their show, Barbara Bel Geddes was an acclaimed stage and movie actress, earning Oscar and Tony nominations for her work in the 40s and 50s. She's most remembered for her role as Midge in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo. Pearls, cardigans, A-line skirts, her look defined preppy, right down to her navy blue pumps. Hitting middle age, however, she made guest appearances on shows throughout the 60s, but TV was not interested in a woman of Barbara's age or acting caliber. Then, in 1977, she performed in a made-for-TV production of Our Town opposite Hal Holbrook. Larry Hagman maintains that the signing of Barbara Bel Geddes in 1977 as the first casting for Dallas established the show's aspirations for quality.
I don't know what to say.
You could start by saying good luck and hello.
Look at Barbara, doesn't she look wonderful?
Miss Ellie, do you mind if I fish?
She's the reason I took the show. I said, who's going to play my mama? They said, Barbara Bel Geddes. And I said, okay. I mean, that's the kind of class they're going to have on the show. Okay with me, just to work with her.
Isn't she pretty, Mama?
I was a big fan of her ever since she was, ever.
I don't want to hear any now, mamas.
On location here, her hotel room was right across the hall from mine, and when we weren't working, I'd always be in her room, and she'd always tell me all her theater stories. She would, sit in her chair. I'd literally be sitting on the floor at her feet listening to all her theater stories. Yeah, she was amazing. She is amazing.
Now, about Jane Wyman. Jane Wyman started out her career as a dancer, and during the busy Hollywood days of the mid-30s was discovered by agent William Demarest. Yes, that's right, William Demarest, who played Uncle Charlie on My Three Sons. And he invited her to do a screen test. From just one test and no formal training or credentials, Wyman was signed to a 6-month contract as an actress with Warner Brothers. Wyman is known for her challenging, mostly serious roles on the silver screen. She was nominated for an Oscar twice and took the honor in 1948 for her role as Belinda McDonald, a deaf-mute rape victim in Johnny Belinda. She transitioned over to TV with ease in the 50s, including the offering Jane Wyman Presents the Fireside Theater show, which lasted for 3 seasons. She took on guest roles and acted in the occasional made-for-TV movie. In 1979, Wyman was again a household name by virtue of the fact that her ex-husband, Ronald Reagan, had declared his presidential candidacy. She had already endured the additional attention accorded her, his visible, successful ex, when he ran for and served as governor of California. But Wyman exercised good judgment in keeping her remarks and political opinions and reflections on her husband to a minimum, a positive, respectful minimum. She had a pretty healthy opinion of herself, and in all sincerity, in interviews likely wanted to keep the focus of that time with the reporter on her. It's reported that Barbara Stanwyck got the first offer to be Falcon Crest's Angela Channing, but declined. Wyman, perhaps hungry for all sorts of legacy career reasons, sunk her teeth in and gave it her all. Now for a look at Dallas, the show, and Miss Ellie, the matriarch. Dallas was America's longest-running primetime soap opera. It focused on the Ewing family and their Texas oil interests. Miss Ellie, played by Barbara Bel Geddes, had been married to Jock Ewing for 40-plus years. And we know from a 1986 made-for-TV movie, Prequel, that Miss Ellie was a childhood friend of Digger Barnes. Digger's life, even in 1978, is a series of bad choices. So back in the 30s, Miss Ellie took up with Jock, just as his first oil contract came in. The timing couldn't have been better. Her family owned and operated South Fork as a cattle ranch, but the Depression and disease to the herd had put the ranch in dire straits. As an innocent teen, Miss Ellie married Jock to ensure the livelihood of South Fork. That marriage would launch a decades-long squabble between the Ewings and the Barnes, which would carry into the next generation. Jock and Miss Ellie have 3 sons, J.R., Gary, and Bobby. Yes, Gary is part of the Knots Landing spin-off, but that's another story. J.R. and Bobby carry most of the testosterone plot lines. This includes the animosity toward Digger and his son Cliff. But Bobby goes and changes the equation when he marries Pamela Barnes, played by Victoria Principal. It's all very, very soapy. You've just got your share of infidelities and business maneuvers and jealousies, health crises, and natural disasters. Miss Ellie, for all 2 minutes of screen time she averages in most episodes, however, is the conscience of the family. Bel Geddes appeared in all but 1 season of the show from 1978 to 1990. Following triple bypass surgery, she left the show in its 8th season due to health reasons. They didn't write her character out of the show. And so in 1984, producers signed Donna Reed, yes, TV's Donna Reed, to a 3-year contract to become the new Miss Ellie. It didn't go well. This clip contains statements from Reed and her husband and also 2 unnamed Dallas crew members.
4-year-old actress soon found out why she was let go. The original Miss Ellie, Barbara Bel Geddes, was homesick for South Fork.
When she saw Donna Reed on the air in her role, she called and says, "I want to come back." She said, "I can't stand to see somebody else read my lines."
When Barbara agreed to come back and negotiations went well, Donna had to leave the show. It was that simple.
But with 2 years left to run on her contract, the TV veteran was not going to go down without a fight.
She insisted that she get paid the full contract, and we went to court.
In September, Reed won her full pay, but the emotional toll was severe.
It was unfair. It was very unfair. But it's Hollywood.
Bel Geddes returned in the 9th season and completed the run with the distinction of being the only original member of the cast to have won an Emmy. Year in and year out, Miss Ellie is the Ewing family moral compass. She was happily married to Jock Ewing until her co-star, Jim Davis, died unexpectedly in 1981. They cover his death as a real event in the TV family, which ran with the emotion of a team in mourning. And rather than replace his character with another actor, they made Miss Ellie a widow. 3 years later, she married Clayton Farlow. Throughout the show's run, Miss Ellie reconnected with her long-lost brother, restored her relationship with son Gary, who up and left South Fork many, many years ago after getting a girl pregnant in his teen years. That pregnancy resulted in Lucy, who was played by Charlene Tilton, who was a challenge to Ellie and was not at all the daughter surrogate that Ellie had hoped she would be. As Miss Ellie says early in season 1, Lucy is spoiled and the Ewing men can't say no to her. But imagine the signal it sent all sorts of widows across the country when Miss Ellie, determined but by no means glamorous in her wealth, marries Clayton Farlow. Miss Ellie wears sweaters with blouses and turtlenecks underneath them. Her hair is sensible and natural. Her makeup is positively minimal. The openness of her facial expression exudes honesty. American women saw themselves in her. But the guilty pleasure of soap operas gives you the distraction, escapism, and vicarious living every girl needs to make it through a week. Early in the show's run, writers have Miss Ellie battle breast cancer and a mastectomy. She also helps countless characters through their own challenges, including Sue Ellen's alcoholism. These scenes were memorably performed by Linda Gray. The arc of Bobby and J.R. battling for control of the company brings Miss Ellie to deliver some of her most compelling lines. This is 1987. Americans love to loathe J.R. as much as any nefarious enemy, real or fictional. But consummate actress Bel Geddes delivers a speech of conscience and values that every mother has at some point also had to deliver. This is quality.
Is JR in his office?
Yes, he is, but,
Hey, I'll get back to you. Mama, what brings you here?
Sit down, JR, where I can see you, and get your brother in here.
Well, something better.
Now, JR.
Bobby?
Yeah?
Mama's in my office. She wants to talk to both of us. Could you come in here a minute, please?
I'll be right in.
Mama? JR, what's going on?
Sit down, Bobby. I want to talk to you and JR. I always thought that no matter what happened, I'd always stand by my family. It was always that way with the Ewings. It was always the family against all outsiders. We always stuck up for each other, even when we knew we were wrong. It's gone too far. And I won't defend either of you any longer. I can't.
Mama, what do you mean?
I've thought about this a lot. And believe me, this is one of the hardest things that I've ever had to say. But as far as I'm concerned, you two don't deserve to own Ewing Oil.
Mama, this is Daddy's company you're talking about.
Don't you ever speak his name in front of me again. You dishonored his name and his company. And I guess that's what hurts me the most. Because your daddy would have been so ashamed of you. I know he would. Because I sure as hell am.
Mama, I know you're upset, but can't we talk this over?
I have nothing more to say. You're both on your own now. And as far as Ewing Oil goes, it should have died with your daddy. It would have saved us all a lot of trouble.
If you are a Dallas regular, you know the amount of time Miss Ellie appears on screen is pretty paltry. But in TV herstory, she plays an extraordinary and memorable role. Miss Ellie is an icon of stability and goodness. Her breast cancer arc caught the attention of former First Lady Betty Ford, who herself is a cancer survivor. Mrs. Ford lauded Barbara for her moving portrayal, and that year Time magazine named Barbara one of the 10 most respected women in America. Bel Geddes was so trusted that in 1986, Campbell's Soup Company enlisted her to pitch their new line of home cooking soup.
When you care about people, nothing's too good, which is why I've been making homemade soup for years. But I've discovered a delicious soup from Campbell called Home Cookin', homemade style broth with tender chicken, celery, and carrots and noodles. It's the closest thing to my own, which is important, because if you love someone, a little thing like soup isn't a little thing. Home cooking, a taste so close to home.
Still, as preppy and old money looking as she was in Vertigo, Barbara Bel Geddes carried that look to Dallas and again in a canned soup commercial. She was no-nonsense, approachable, humble, and caring. Which is kind of funny because in an interview with People magazine, she said of her career, "They're always making me play well-bred ladies. I'm not very well-bred, and I'm not much of a lady." Oh, Ms. Bel Geddes, verbal slayer of J.R. Ewing and other evildoers, we at Advanced TV Herstory respectfully disagree. Falcon Crest was similar to Dallas and to a show that would soon become its rival, Dynasty, in at least a few ways. They were set in medium-sized American cities, Dallas, San Francisco, Napa wine country, and Denver. They involved family-run, privately owned enterprises that were spread across multiple generations or branches of a family. In Falcon Crest, which is set in the San Francisco Napa Valley wine country area, Angela Channing and her brother had shared ownership of land in which the vineyard and estate stood. Angela's brother dies accidentally, but Angela rigs the body to be discovered at the bottom of a canyon in the driver's seat, so that authorities will assume it was a drunk driving accident. Such conclusion would bode better for her in terms of her brother's will, thereby getting the full estate for herself. Angela Channing has been grooming her handsome grandson, Lance, played by Lorenzo Lamas, to eventually take over the business. When what to our wondering eyes should appear but Angela's brother's heir and his wife, played by Robert Foxworth and Susan Sullivan. According to the will, these two are entitled to the original family property, which is a portion of the larger estate Angela has built. Angela attempts to buy and intimidate them out, fearing she will lose control. From there, it blossoms into a soap opera of epic proportions, with medical maladies, shady business wranglings, infidelities, and even Angela's disapproval of the romance between handsome grandson Lance and Apollonia, the leading lady from the movie Purple Rain. Okay, so perhaps with an eye to demographics or inexpensive contracts for big-name studio talent from Hollywood's heyday, the 8 seasons of Falcon Crest unfold to include Cliff Robertson, Gina Lollobrigida, Cesar Romero, Celeste Holm, Lana Turner, and Mel Ferrer. Now on to Jane Wyman as Angela Channing. This clip from the 1984 Golden Globe Awards sort of sums up the field Wyman competed against for Best Actress and what was on everyone's minds about the character she played.
Collins Dynasty.
Tyne Daly, Cagney and Lacey.
Linda Evans Dynasty.
Stephanie Powers, Heart to Heart.
Jane Wyman, Falcon Crest.
The winner is Jane Wyman.
Well, my goodness. I was sitting there relaxing, having a perfectly marvelous time. I tell you what, there you are. Every one of you, and I'm so grateful for this. We're having such a fine time, and I'm such a bitch. I mean, you know, I don't know how you can be nice anymore and win anything, you know? But I am really grateful for this. I tell you, I am having the best time of my life. I'm a little too old to be happy, but I'm just old enough to be grateful.
As a veteran of the silver screen, Wyman had a hand in all sorts of decisions behind the scenes of Falcon Crest. In a 1986 biography, author Lawrence Quirk quotes Wyman about her original impression of the character of Angela Channing. She says, "After I told them I was plenty old enough and had enough gray hair without putting on that dreadful wig," she told an interviewer, "I decided to do something about Angela. Not only was she too mean and vicious, she was just plain boring. I wanted Angie to be an interesting character. She's a tough-as-nails businesswoman in every sense of the word. But the trouble with the pilot was that she was just too nasty." And the book goes on to say, she had no intention of letting Angela Channing become a sort of J.R. Ewing of the wine business. Said Wyman, "I feel I'm representing all women in business. I may come off as a hard, tough character, but I want Angie to show she's capable of love." Yep. Okay, wow. TV had never experienced a woman character, let alone a mature woman character, who came across so cold and so driven. With this extensive film experience, Wyman brought a certain eye to Channing's look. She made wardrobe decisions throughout the show, and again, an excerpt from the book. "I like sexy and female clothes. I'm not a stranger in this business. I really don't want to get involved in all the production junk, but I do. I think everyone should. To get a good show, everything you've got must go into it, and you can't spread yourself too thin or everything suffers." Okay, that was Jane Wyman. But if you get the chance to even watch the opening credits, you see red suits buttoned right up to her throat, shoulder pads, and a hairstyle that is, well, not relaxed. Now, some might say that at that point she was vying for fashion icon status against Nancy Reagan, who had already been trend-setting First Lady for a few years. While many describe the entire show of Falcon Crest as simply campy, Wyman took her role and character very seriously. As well she should. She pulled down $3 million for the show's last season, while Nancy Reagan had to hold fundraisers to pay for red china and renovations for the White House. Here's Jane Wyman on more about her character.
I won't tell you because I don't know exactly what we're going to do. It'll be fun for you, though. Well, of course, it's another dimension of her. I mean, you know, she's got 4 or 5 different facets that we play with. It gives her a chance to flirt. I mean, don't all women love to flirt, you know, and have some fun? So we'll see how that develops.
As the show launched its 5th season, Wyman revealed to Entertainment Tonight how close her personality is to Angela's.
There's a lot of me in her. I don't think I'm as difficult to get along with as Angela is, and I certainly don't connive.
How involved are you in the fine-tuning of Angela Channing, the way she looks?
I have to be involved with how she looks and where she's going to go and all these things, and it's kind of fun to do it. It's almost like laying out a plot plan, you know. But when I go home at night, I lock her outside the front door. I mean, you know, she may knock a lot, but I won't let her in.
In the 8 seasons, Angela is ruthless against any person or organization that would take even a sliver of her empire. Remember the storyline about her brother's suspicious death being the catalyst for her having full control of the estate? Here's the verbal volley between Wyman and the brother's widow, played by Lana Turner.
No interest in destroying anyone. What about Jason? He was a man of culture, a man with style. He could have been a great man. But you would have killed him with your bare hands before you'd have let him have any part of Falcon Crest.
Did you come all the way over here to tell me that?
Power. That's all you love.
Love? What do you know about love? The one time you had it, you turned it away.
That's not what happened, and you know it. I knew what you were up to. I knew that you were out to take over all of Falcon Crest.
Falcon Crest belongs to those who can control it and make it live. It belongs to me because I'm strong enough to make it produce. The future here belongs to anyone who has the skill and the raw guts to take it away from me. Now, Jason could never do that, and neither could you. That's why you ran away.
The only reason I took Chase away was to keep you from ruining his life.
Now, why would I do that?
You don't understand, do you? I don't like you, Angela. I don't like anything about you. Now, maybe you've got everybody else believing that Jason got drunk and drove his truck off the road, but I don't accept that.
That's exactly what happened.
Well, Emma seems to think that Jason died more than once.
Well, it's highly improbable, isn't it?
The only thing I really care about is that my son doesn't become a victim of some accident himself.
As we know in 2015, outsized egos are sometimes very necessary. They provide an armor to break new ground and a sense of confidence that only others can envy. Wyman rode the Angela Channing character hard, delivering an edginess that American women knew they needed to acquire, at least a little bit, in order to compete. When the careers of these 2 fine actresses began, most American women listened to daytime dramas on the radio and later watched them on TV. Plot lines of betrayal, infidelity, and romance filled the hours in between diaper changes, cookie baking, and getting dinner ready for the family. But by the late 70s and early 80s, fewer women were home watching daytime TV. They were at their jobs, classes, or doing community work that served their interest. Thus, the desire for daytime drama plot lines, glitzed up a bit with high-stakes wheeling and dealing, was still there. With their shoulder pads, tuxedos, fancy cars, big hair, and beautiful people, Dallas, Knots Landing, Falcon Crest, and Dynasty eased the transition for millions of women. Within that transition, we examined how our values carry over from our personal or family expectations to that of our workplace and colleagues. Within the plot constructions of just these 2 shows, Dallas and Falcon Crest, 2 excellent actresses could take on very different styles, deliver sharp, well-written lines, and truly hold their own in a man's world. We'll close with this Dallas scene, breakfast at the pool. Sue Ellen joins Miss Ellie, Donna Krebs, who is played by Susan Howard, and Jenna Wade, played by Priscilla Presley, before that plastic surgery. While we don't all live this lifestyle, we've all been part of this conversation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What do you want breakfast?
Just coffee. I talked to Lucy this morning.
How nice.
She sounded very happy.
That puts her one up on all of us.
What, Sue Ellen?
Well, look around. The ladies of South Fork. I don't see any men. Don't they live here anymore? They certainly don't spend their nights here. Maybe Clayton.
Stop it, Sue Ellen. You're not the only one with a problem.
That's very easy to see.
Don't compare the others to JR.
There is no comparison. But a Ewing is a Krebs.
If you have problems, do something about them. But don't just mope around here and spoil my day. I, for one, am very happy with my husband. If I weren't, I'd make changes. If the men aren't here, whose fault is it?
Whose fault indeed?
Falcon Crest, Dallas. Watch them with a new sense of appreciation if you ever get the chance. Sources for this installment of Advanced TV Herstory are Lawrence Quirk's 1986 book, Jane Wyman, The Actress and the Woman. And even though both women have been dead now for close to a decade, both have official websites. Find out more about their award-winning careers at www.barbarabelgeddes, and that's BELGEDDES.com, and www.jane-wyman, WYMAN.com. There is a 5-part interview on Jane Wyman conducted by Carol Langer, found online. Also, Entertainment Weekly clips found online covered the season previews and the details of Miss Ellie's actress drama. And finally, both shows have numerous sites managed by fans that have all sorts of great content. Remember to register your comments or ideas at Advanced TV Herstory's iTunes page or at Libsyn, wherever you go to listen to these episodes. Follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter. Many thanks to Allison Abrams for assistance with the script, as she heads into her senior year at Northwestern University's radio, TV, and film program. It's only a matter of time before she's making TV herstory. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams.